Hello buddy, my name is Eric, and today we're going to be looking at what is either a very stealthy malware campaign or the most false positives I've ever seen. This is the DS FPS Mouse Fixer. So what does this program do? This is a script that is designed to make it so that you can play first-person shooter games on the Nintendo DS on an emulator with a mouse, which of course, given how those controls are designed, wouldn't work very well out of the box. Now, that's interesting, but the main reason this program is of interest is because it has so many hits on VirusTotal. I got an email from someone wondering if this was real, and he was extremely concerned about the amount of detections here. It's not one or two, it's more than I would see on most malware. Here's a README. It's also not the kind of program that should have any sort of malware detections. So really all we have to do is, we'll upload these. Okay, so this one doesn't seem to be too bad. And the fix mouse. Okay, so fixed mouse is our real suspect. Now, these are a variety of antivirus, Google being possibly the most notable one here. Malwarebytes, which a lot of people, I don't really like it, but a lot of people put faith into that. McAfee, our friend. Sang4 Engine 0. Symantec, that's Norton. Secure Age. So quite a few antiviruses don't like this. Although they are coming up with different hits. So when Babar is the first, we can see if we can find anything about this. I think I know what it is. Oh, that's strange. They won't actually give you the technical details. But to my understanding, it's some sort of dropper. Except for Malwarebytes, which is calling this a remote shell, which is comparatively scarier. First thing we can do, of course, is run it and see what it's doing. Small screen doesn't like it, but that's okay. We can just run it. I don't like that. Okay, let's just run Procmon on it. Of course, it's equally possible that it's closing itself because the prerequisite of it to run is not included. Yep, and it exits without starting anything else, so it genuinely did close. Okay, let's just see. Let's just run it in a terminal so we can actually see why it closed. No, it's not giving us any arguments. Let's try the DS FPS Mouse Fix exe. Thank you for using my janky tool for DS FPS games. Please select a game from the menu above. Okay. And then this sends mouse inputs that actually send keys to my Yeah, okay, that works. And then we hit that to stop it. So that all seems to work as intended. So let's just look at the README. Let's just open this in Ghidra. I'm using Ghidra because, of course, I don't have my licensed Binary Ninja on the malware VM. We can use other tools as well, but let's just see, because really all we have to do, because I've already looked through the open source code and it's harmless, so all we have to do is just see, okay, is there anything in here that doesn't look like the open source code, and why is this tripping up so much stuff? I'm also curious how it's compiled, purely because the thing that made me a bit sketched out about the open source project is there were no compilation instructions, so we couldn't easily just compare, because best way, if you have an open source project and you're concerned the precompiled binary is dodgy, is you either compile it yourself or you compile it yourself and then you diff it just to make sure it's the same. Okay. So yeah, this is in fact pure C, which is, especially for a Windows app, very uncommon. Usually you would much rather use a mix, use C++, and this is MSVC, so this, or not MSVC, this is MinGW, so this is actually compiled using the GNU compiler, but Ghidra should be able to understand that, and we can also see what this program is intended to do. Oh, it looks like we've even got debug symbols, so this should be really easy. So, main, swap mouse button. Oh, and that's just called into user32. Okay, so unless there's something bad in __main, oh, nothing dodgy here. Okay, this is just to fix if the left and right button is wrong. And that's all it does. Let's just check nothing weird is imported. Very little imported in here. As far as I can tell, that's just debug. And that's no reason. No, and there's no weird calls to virtual protect. There's absolutely nothing sketchy in here. Yeah, we got debug symbols, which is, of course, all the malware ships with debug symbols. So I couldn't comprehend why so many, maybe the fact that it does so little. Let's actually click reanalyze, see if it's still getting as many detections. The other thing that had me pretty confident this wasn't actually malware was the fact that all of these files hadn't been updated in so long Like any sort of, especially if it's really any kind of malware, needs to connect somewhere. And those servers don't last all that long. So the odds that a 2-year-old sample is actually anything malicious is just very low. Now we get even more hits. Now, while we're here, let's just look at one other potentially questionable file. Now, the difference here is this isn't questionable because of antivirus. This is questionable because someone emailed me saying this site is using a passworded zip file for public files, which legitimate software almost never does. So on here, we're supposed to be able to find a tool for detecting fake USBs. So the tool we're after is called Fake Flash Test. Now, okay, they do not contain viruses, according to these people. But my question is, why else, other than to circumvent virus scanning, would you ever ship a legitimate program in a passworded zip? There's no benefit. Oh, it must be a zip 64, so we actually have to use 7-zip. Unless you don't want people to be able to use your software, why would you do that? Now, let's see what Virus Tool has to say, although, of course, if they're telling us it's fine, and I'm sure they're not lying, probably won't be many hits. Nope, none. And here is this guy, Jaffa Cakes, just run. Basically, if anyone runs a triage report, he'll link the results. Triage is a popular malware sandbox that people use. It's free. And that's all well-expected behavior. It's actually a good point on the subject of false positives and paranoia. Sandboxes are really only good at detecting malware. And they'll tell you, like, you can't just blindly use them. It depends. I mean, I would say that triage is a lot more sensitive than AnyRun. Whereas AnyRun is relatively unlikely to give malicious activity for a legitimate sample. But all of them, like, for example, software that installs, a sandbox isn't going to like that, even though that isn't malicious. So let's take a look. Let's run this and just make sure that there's nothing super shady going on here. So, fake flash test, tests. Okay. Yeah, well, we can't really run this because we don't have any flash drives on this VM, but nothing here looks awry. We might as well throw this into Ghidra just to make sure. This is a tiny binary, so there's really not a lot of room. I think this is a Visual Basic app. Yeah, it's calling into this, so we're not actually going to, not really a disassembly job. It's not signed, but this site seems to be pretty reputable. It's been in use for years. So the only real risk I see on this site is if you, instead of clicking that download, went to this download. And, well, let's find out what this is. Setup.exe. Let's see what I've just installed. I think this is, oh yeah, I know this. This is just Adwar. It's not a big deal. So that's the main risk. And unfortunately, while Google have tried, sites that contain the keyword download inevitably get littered with these ads that say get download. Like Wave browser here, which isn't malware, it's just filled with ads, and I wouldn't recommend it. But it's even legitimate enough that some info stealers target it. We'll cancel the second installer for the PC App Store. I think I already installed the PC App Store, didn't I? Oh, here we go. Gotta love the fake web app installer. We already got a bit of spying collecting my Windows version. Done. We're in your start menu. Good to know. Doesn't look like we're getting the PC App Store. That's sad. I really wanted to install more adware. So that is going to be all for this video. So our main subject, of course, is false positives. So how do you tell if something's a false positive? Well, I guess the ultimate method of doing that, assuming you can set up a VM and it doesn't get detected, is using a VM. Paying attention, like, do you trust the person who is running this file? And while the DS one is just puzzling, because I genuinely can't think of a reason why it would be detected by anything. In a lot of cases, like one example is that Roblox FPS unlocker I covered a few years ago. There's usually a semi-logical reason why it might be falsely detected. Doesn't access a lot of low-level stuff. Also, reading the detections. Like, one to watch out for is if you're, well, you know what you're doing if you're doing this. But if it says hack tool, which could be anything from software obtained through less than legal sources to game cheats to remote access software, it's a good idea to read, and if the description matches what you were expecting, it's not malware. Now, on the other hand, the reason these detections exist, especially for things like remote access tools, is while you may have a genuine use for a remote access tool, if you didn't know about it, it's probably a good idea for the antivirus to give you a heads up. So that's going to be all for me for now. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.